order the July 16, 2026 village board meeting. Roll call shows all trustees are present except for Jane. She is excused. Staff is all present, and our attorney Ashley is back. 4, agenda changes. Are there any? Okay. 5, consent agenda. A, June 18th, 2026, regular board meeting minutes. B, licenses and permits as presented. And C, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. If there are no questions, I would need a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call, Jim.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. 6, pre-registered citizens to be heard. Limit 5 minutes. A, state your name and address. B, comments to be limited to 5 minutes. C, pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.832 and 19.842, the board's role is to listen to public comments and not ask questions, discuss, or take action regarding pre-registered citizens' comments. Are there any?
Yes, Shauna Keel, 235 South Mill Street.
Shauna Keel, 235 South Mill Street, Hortonville. I have been a resident of this village for 45 years. I've seen this community through many changes, and in all that time, and during the 7 years I served on this board, I've been proud of our commitment to supporting small business. Today, however, I find myself deeply disillusioned, even considering leaving the only home my children and I have ever known. Our village comprehensive plan and website promote Hortonville as a destination for collaboration, aiming to attract diverse businesses and reinvest in vacant downtown infrastructure. Yet my own experience suggests these words are not being met with action. At the last meeting, a growing business, Hortonville Auto, that serves more than 25% of the village households and/or the non-residents that come to town for work, and draws hundreds of customers from across the region from Green Bay to Kenosha, applied for a conditional use consideration in a location that has been empty for over a decade and is an eyesore. Some of those out-of-town customers frequent other local businesses through our promotion and only because they are utilizing our services. Among those we have served for the last 3 years are half of the members of this board and their immediate family members. Additionally, we are the only location in the district authorized to carry private label products used by the DPW's equipment. Despite our professional reputation and service to many on this board and our entire community, our business was compared to a strip club and treated as a joke during the discussions regarding our future success. I ask that each of you on the board or in the audience, as current or previous owners of businesses, how would that make you feel? The property in question suffers from contradictory zoning. It is classified as industrial for tax purposes, but restricted by a downtown district overlay. We have collaborated directly with the property owner to develop a plan that increases the tax base and allows us to continue serving residents. We have worked exclusively with the owner to ensure the project is beneficial for everyone involved. I am sure others have had thoughts on what could go there, but we collaborated. They did not. Hortonville Auto is being forced to move due to property layout and zoning constraints, yet we face an impossible deadline to find a new location within the village. We have exhausted every feasible option. While some suggest we belong in the industrial park, there is currently no land available there, largely due to the presence of non-industrial businesses that previous boards allowed to occupy those spaces. I would never suggest asking these businesses to move or close, however, these are the facts. Additionally, auto repair shops require visibility for success and are generally in light industrial and commercial properties. We have met with the owners of other industrial sites, such as the canning, nail, and toy factories, but available spaces in these locations require cost-prohibitive remodeling or lack of the structural integrity necessary for automotive service needs. Many don't have solid floors to install lifts. Most don't have adequate water, sewer, bathroom, electrical, or lighting services to perform work. We have even reached out to owners of unlisted land with no success. This is not a matter of preference. It's a matter of viability. These are required tools for our trade, and without them, failure is imminent. To address the concerns raised previously, our building requirements are driven by employee safety and the number of lifts needed for operational efficiency, not the size of vehicles we service. Our goal is a safe, professional workspace that meets modern standards. Alternative options like the previously available Mike Murphy Ford building or the soon-to-be vacant county building were either physically unsuitable due to the items listed above or being claimed for public use, further reducing the available taxable industrial land in our village. We are left with a single option or the prospect of forever being shut down, resulting in the loss of family income, a cessation of our community donations, and the potential displacement of our family from our home. Decisions of this magnitude should not be based on the not in my backyard sentiments or statements from board members saying, take the business over there, when there simply is no over there left to go. I repeat, there is no over there. The board previously approved a conditional use for a similar automotive business in the same downtown district. To deny us now is inconsistent and calls into question the fairness of these proceedings. We cannot promote revitalization while creating hardships that force established businesses to close. It was brought up during the meeting that there was interest in revoking this conditional use, causing another business to close in Hortonville. Intent can only be inferred as a means to avoid having to approve my business for similar property. Again, this doesn't align with the words being used by the village marketing material or show any collaboration. Additionally, another non-conforming property in the downtown district stated that they may want to be removed from the district for resale purposes and a change of plans. If one property east of Nash can be removed from the district, why can't another for the same reasons? This isn't even just about my business. Restricting this land to a narrow list of uses only stifles revenue and contradicts our stated goals of attracting traffic to the town with a loss due to the bypass. This can only lead me to believe that we exclusively want foot or bike traffic. If you drive a car, motorcycle, own a boat, or a camper, you need not apply. We must decide if we truly want a thriving business community or one that only accommodates foot and bike traffic. Finally, the name Hortonville Auto is a tribute to our local history. Our business name once existed in the very downtown we are now trying to revitalize, with photos of our heritage preserved in the local museum in the same downtown building it inhabits. Reviewing pictures of historical Hortonville downtown throughout the years, you will find numerous gas and service stations speckling the downtown at different points in time. We intend to honor that legacy by growing our business alongside other downtown partners. I ask the board to consider the letters of support that you have received and will continue to receive, and to listen to the constituents and local business owners here tonight. We need consistency and a vision that meets the actual needs of our residents. Were the previous denials based on personal preference or the fact that the village has expressed interest in purchasing that same property around the same time frame? I urge a member of this board to move for reconsideration by adding this to the near future board agenda. The stakes for my family and this community are far too high for this to be the final word. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Grant Kroll, 224 West Main Street.
Hi there, everybody. Hope you guys are doing okay with all that smoke outside. It's pretty bad. Grant Kroll, 224 West Main Street. I'm here to speak for myself and behalf of my fiance. We've been very stressed out with hearing about them not being able to find another place for their shop. I wish we could have found them sooner. They've worked on umpteen vehicles for my family and umpteen vehicles for friends. The affordability, honesty, loyalty, and their overall integrity has made us, we can't go anywhere else. They're too valuable to leave. They're too valuable to lose to this community. Hearing that, like I said, again, hearing that they cannot find or get a place to rebuild and relocate it'd be a tragedy to lose them. So I don't know how many people have had their vehicles in here worked on by them. If you go anywhere else, you'll find out that the price doesn't always fit what you think you're paying for. It's just too expensive, takes too long, and overall, I don't know who else I'd ever deal with. They're great friends, and it comes down to like my business. A lot of people have been told by them to stop in by us, even walk downtown. When it comes down to charity, I don't know if a lot of people know about like charity benefits that we do. My business, since we've been open in 2 years, has raised just around $43,000 worth of charitable donations to the community and local people that need help. And Alex and Shauna, I can't count how much, in hundreds they have donated to, like the mob out of Bear Creek. We're huge on helping people. We're the Adopt a Family, who they donated thousands to. That goes to dozens of people, including people in this town that we have helped through the Adopt a Family. But I hope that this board can consider and grant them the ability to rebuild in that zoned area across from BP. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Connie Sufo, West 9315 School Road. Hey, Connie, so we're
I
I would rather crawl in the corner than speak in front of everybody like this, but when Alex got a hold of me today, I had to come because they cannot leave, because if I have to take my car somewhere else, I'm gonna flip out. It's an honest mechanic that's like a unicorn. They can't leave. We need them here. I need them here. I am so lucky in the past couple of years that I found them, and I tell you, I ask him, I trust him. I just trust him. I say, hey, would you drive this down the road? And if he says no or yes, I listen to him because they're honest people. I really feel lucky to have found them, and I really hope we can. I'm gonna be honest, what is the problem? Why can't they have them? Am I allowed to ask questions?
We cannot answer,
Oh,
no, this
okay.
is just public
I
comment.
didn't know, because
Yes.
I've never, ever done this before, so I was just, I really hope that they can come, that you guys will reconsider and find something that, I don't want them to leave, because if they leave, then I gotta follow them somewhere, and that's gonna get weird. So, it's just, I'm uncomfortable up here, so I joke. But no, I trust him. Honest mechanics, man, you cannot. They gotta stay. And I guess that's all I have to say. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you,
That's all.
that's all. Okay, we will move to 7, committee reports, and there are none. 8, unfinished business from previous meetings, there is none. 9, new business. A, discussion and possible action on water rate case study phase 2, conventional rate case application, presentation by Ellers.
All right, good evening, everybody. I believe you all have this presentation. This is what we're going to walk through this evening. My name is Ariana Schmidt, municipal advisor for the village. I was here, was that 1 or 2 months ago now, to walk through the first phase, which just laid out before you the long-range cash flow, potential impact, and that's when the village board gave us the green light to go ahead and proceed with working on the conventional rate case. So we're here tonight to present those results to you and seeking your consensus to file said application. So starting on slide 2, just a quick recap. That phase 1, thank you, I put a date in here, that was completed in April of 2026. So that was that long-range cash flow that we went through. The biggest takeaway from that was the longer that you defer doing the conventional rate case, the more assets that are part of the rate case, more increases to O&M expenses that ultimately increased your revenue requirement required as a part of the rate application. So that was a big part of the decision on why you're doing this now. With the way that the PSC, the Public Service Commission, who governs your water utilities, works, is that they operate on a test year in which the application has to be filed by July 31st in order to not include assets from 2027 in the rate case. So that was another big driver behind doing this now. That will help lower the magnitude of this rate case by filing this month rather than any time after that. So again, I'll walk through the results of the application and then open it up for any questions or changes that you may or may not want to see. So slide number 3, quick recap. Your last full rate case was done in 2016, so it has been about 10 years. Other than going in for a full rate case, the only other way to increase your rates is to follow a simplified rate case, which is a set standard rate increase that the PSC offers to every municipality at the same rate. That is 3% for this year. So the village did elect to proceed with filing that early to help eat into the magnitude of the rate increase coming next year. So that increase of 3% will take effect August 1st of this year. So now we'll take a look at the initial results. So again, there's 2 different ways that you can calculate as to what the rate adjustment necessary would be. Top half is a cash basis, which looks at O&M, debt, and cash funded capital. Bottom half is the utility basis method, which is what the PSC uses in determining rates, and this is ultimately what you're beholden to. So that looks at the same operating and maintenance expenses, but also factors in depreciation of assets. That's the biggest change. So if we look at 2026, that's really the column in focus here, and the rate adjustment that resulted from completion of the application is just shy of 50% at 49.98%. So in filing this application, this is a request to the PSC. It does not mean that's exactly what the revenue requirement adjustment will be. They'll do their own audit of the utility back the last 10 years since you last filed a full rate case and recommend any additional adjustments needed. Just to remind you where that rate increase was anticipated to be when we presented this back in April, it was at 43%. So there was a couple different adjustments that we've made since that time, one of which is the 2025 audit that was finalized that did have slightly higher operating and maintenance expenses than what we had projected. Higher O&M expenses therefore increases the amount of revenue necessary as a result of the application. Additionally, your depreciation and the asset value is slightly higher than what we had projected. So those adjustments have led to that slight increase in the total rate adjustment necessary. Now, the PSC will do what's called a cost of service study, in which they then recommend how do we actually allocate a need for an additional almost 50% of rate revenues. So that does not mean every single end user will see a 50% increase to their bill. They'll allocate it amongst customer classes based on a variety of assumptions. So that will all take place after we file the application, after they dive into the review of the audit of the utility, and then they'll ultimately present to you what they recommend that rate increase to be. Again, they control that, so this is all that we can do is request this, but they will come back with that final decision. So what does that mean in terms of for the future? If we look at slide number 5, this basically shows where the cash position of the utility will be. If I draw your attention to the very last 3 rows of the slide, yep, perfect. So all in debt coverage, right now the utility has no debt, so there is no debt ratio that we're looking at. Moving forward, obviously, if the utility executes the capital plan that we've estimated for today, if they issue new debt, that'll become a factor, but that's not part of your decision tonight. This is really just looking at the impact of the rate increase from the application that we've put together, and then basically shows that your cash position year over year will be in a healthy position in that you don't necessarily need another rate increase over the next 8 years. However, I will reiterate that doesn't mean you set it and forget it, because there will be changes to this moving forward as you execute various capital plans and so on. So it's still good to revisit your cash flow projection moving forward, keeping an eye on when you should have opportunities for future simplified rate increases, basically to help you keep up with inflation and eat into your rates over a small increase rather than having to face a large increase like this again anytime soon. So looking at slide number 6, this shows you what an impact could be on a sample average residential user. Again, this is applying this 49.98% to a residential bill. This does not mean this is exactly what you're going to see, because it will be allocated differently amongst classes, but just for simplicity to show you what that impact would be in dollars. In terms of dollars, the 3% rate increase that goes into effect next month is about an additional $2.35 a quarter for an average residential user. And then come 2027, that 49.98% equates to roughly an additional $40 a quarter. This will change depending on your usage. Obviously, higher the usage, the higher the impact, and then different customer classes will see a different impact as well. I did include sewer on here because your utility bill includes both, of course, but as we talked about back in April, we did not recommend any sewer rate increases immediately, so I have not shown any. That is also not part of the decision before you tonight. So to summarize next steps, again, the application, if you want this to be a test year 2026 application, has to be filed by the end of this month. So that's the direction we're looking for from you all tonight. It's not something the PSC requires, since you've already gave us the green light to do the application, but we find it to be a best practice to bring it back to you, present the actual results, and make sure that you all are still comfortable with us proceeding in this manner. If we do not file by July 31st, the rate increase will change and will go up. If I remember correctly, I think it was about an additional 10% that it would go up if we file after July 31st. So timeline from here, after we file, again, the PSC will conduct their audit. They'll provide staff with a lot of fun questions that go back the last 10 years and ask them to dig through files and records. So that process typically takes about 2 to 3 months. After that, the PSC will release that cost of service study result, letting us know what the actual rate increase is and the impact to each customer class. And then they'll hold a statutorily required public hearing. That is the time in which they'll present the results to all of your customers. That is not necessarily the best time to tell your customers that this is coming, because at that point, everything's already been done. The rate increase is already basically finalized, unless the PSC decides to make any changes at that point. Based on comments they hear, it's basically a done deal, and then within 1 to 3 months from that time is when rates actually get implemented. So we often recommend that staff and or the village board provide some sort of language to your customers, whether that be in a mailer or a post or a newspaper, just to let them know of the application being filed now, because then 4 to 6 months from now, when they get the public hearing notice, they're not questioning you as to why is this the first time we're hearing about it. Completely optional, completely up to you. It's just a best practice that we typically recommend. So if you do decide to have us file the application, once the PSC accepts that, we will then provide staff with that suggested language and then do with it what we wish. So are there any questions for me or any discussion points on the information before you tonight?
Anyone?
Are there any recommendations for the sewer?
Not as a part of this, no.
Okay. So you had said that was part of what we were gonna approve here tonight.
What was that?
You had mentioned that that was on there because it was part of what we were gonna do tonight?
It was part of what we talked about back in April, and the decision at that point was to do nothing.
Okay.
And since your utility bill has both, I just wanted to include both so you could
Okay.
see the impact. Yep. But this is just basically looking for direction on, are you comfortable for us to file the application as presented or with any desired changes?
Are we looking for a motion then? Okay, if there are no questions.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the PSC conventional rate case application. Is that the appropriate wording? Do I have to say anything more specific at all?
No.
Okay.
A second.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. B, discussion and possible action on special assessment for defective private sewer laterals on the downtown section of the Main Street project.
So the Main Street project has pipe bursting that that we started this year. It'd be the first time we're doing that, which basically is investigating the private side laterals from the private home to the curb stop box, which is where the village takes over.
All the way to the main.
Well, to the sewer.
Yeah.
Water is the curb stop box part, sorry. And with that, there's cost associated with that to the homeowner, and one way we can do that to help them is basically do it through a special assessment, rather than having them have to pay it up front like now. The amount is, in the packet was, most of them were between $6,000 and $8,000, I think was the highest amount. So the idea would be to do a special assessment. The village pays it up front, then ties it to their taxes over a certain amount of time. Basically, we use a loan rate we get from the bank. We add 0.5% on for as our typical process for staff and administration costs. And then it's basically it's just figuring out the amount of years that we're looking at for it. The homeowners have the option to opt in or opt out. If they opt out of it, there's a fine that is associated with their property, and I think it's a monthly fine of $50 that would be applied to their water bill, basically, until it is fixed. It's a little different than what we were expecting when things first started. So I think ideally it would be, I think, beneficial to help and add that on as a special assessment instead of making the homeowners pay for it. So the only thing would be trying to figure out the number of years associated with that payback.
So then are we doing that tonight, determining the years, or down the road?
Tonight would be the year, so then I could bring back a kind of a resolution
Okay.
authorizing.
Well, do we have waivers?
Yeah,
I think we still have to,
it's a waiver of public hearing. I
right,
sent it over to Tyler. He said that would be the start of the public hearing.
well, right, but they're still gonna have to, do you have anything drafted for like a resolution, or you're saying?
No,
you're
that would
gonna
be
bring
the,
back?
yeah,
Okay,
that would be a, sorry,
getting back in, making sure we have all of the
yeah.
things that we need.
So tonight was the idea, so then I can come back with a resolution with the dates, the times of when it would be due, and then get the interest rates on there too as well. I talked to our banker yesterday, and it was at 5.99 right now, so it'd be around 6.5 right now, but it depends on what it is around August 8th or 6th, whenever our next meeting is, so.
So is this a normal expense that we,
If we wanna continue doing pipe bursting going forward, yes. Basically, without it, the I&I that comes into our system, which is infiltration, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, all the water during a rain event would go into our,
Sewer
Sewer
treatment.
system.
So basically, what is usually in these older laterals is that there's breaks and cracks in them, especially with the clay line ones, and that allows groundwater to infiltrate into those pipes, which then goes to our plant, which we have to pay to treat. And the more and more clean water that goes into our system, the more risk that we have of, on larger events, getting to a maximum amount of material or water coming in, where we could potentially have to have a sewage released into the river to stop sewage from backing up into people's houses. We haven't been close to that point yet, but a lot of our projects are trying to limit this I&I, and what our engineer has found is a lot of it comes from these old private sewer laterals.
So then we would be doing the work.
later, so, through that direction.
And then would we do special assessment by agreement, or would you just have that resolution?
By agreement, probably.
what's the difference?
The difference is we have them signing off on it, because it's a little bit unusual, saying I'm gonna pay it back in X number of years, and I recognize that I'm receiving a benefit here. When you do a traditional special assessment by resolution, there's a public hearing, and you make a decision to levy that assessment. And if somebody were to challenge it, they would do that in court. We would want a waiver from them, not just for that public hearing portion, but that they couldn't come back and say, well, this wasn't fair.
Yeah.
So having that agreement in place is just an added layer of protection if you're essentially gonna finance the improvement for them.
Okay.
This is just phase 1 out of 3.
Yeah, so the rest of Main Street also is the same thing. Part of the plan going forward would be to try to get years ahead, so that ideally, we'd like to be 5 years ahead of when we come in and do a reconstruction in the future. Because most of this doesn't cause a lot of problems in the street. It's mostly bored until there's usually like a large patch under the main where it goes into is all it would be. So ideally, if we could get 5 years ahead of time, that way we're kind of not having issues with our special assessment process and tying that on top of this for people. Otherwise, we would be basically specially assessing. I mean, on average, we've been anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 for a special assessment for a road project. That was without these laterals being done. So now, if you add that in, your residents are going to probably be dealing with 10 to 12.
Because there's also potentially another assessment coming for sidewalk and,
Right, that would
Yeah,
be the
so-
roadway
so
portion.
2.
But I think the Main Street has a little more of a financial structure than most other projects we do. A lot of the project is, we have state funds, county funds, TID funds. So the idea, I think, right now would be to just do the lateral assessment rather than the standard special assessment on top of it. Unless you wanted to do that, you could do that. Then your average person's special assessment in the downtown could be anywhere from, that has a lateral, because not everyone has a lateral in that
Okay,
section.
I'm gonna pause here for a second. Let's pretend that I don't know anything about sewer and water, because I don't.
Right.
So let's back this up and, tell me like I'm a fourth grader here, because I don't even, so I understand, the only thing I got so far was from Aaron's comment is the lateral, is leaking water into the pipes.
Mhm.
Okay, start with, explain to me exactly what the lateral is in reference to the people's properties.
So it's connecting their toilets in their home,
Yeah,
a pipe that connects into the sewer. the
okay,
main
so
sewer
we
line.
have a pipe that runs, so what you're considering the lateral is the pipe that runs from the main sewer
their
underneath the
home.
street, all the way under their yard, all the way up to their home.
Yeah.
Okay, is this, when somebody builds a new home, this is something that is charged to the home, the builder?
The
It's
builder
in-
does it.
Okay,
And it's in our ordinances that the private lateral is the homeowner's responsibility.
okay, that's where I was going to ask. Okay, and so the problem that we're having is that they were put in a really long time ago,
And they're
and-
failing.
and they're failing, and now we're leaking water into our sewer system that shouldn't be there.
And this is a newer method that's been developed so that it's a lot less intrusive than digging up the person's yard all the way to the house and then replacing that lateral. This is, they can actually go in the house and basically string a new pipe inside the old pipe
Okay,
and keep that I from coming out or in.
And if you don't do it, you get a $50 a month fine.
because of the water that's seeping in,
Mm-hmm.
so, and then if it gets really bad and breaks or something, then they end up having this expense regardless, right? Is that how that works, or, so explain to me the downside here, so why would the homeowners that are here just say, well, I'll just pay $50 a month, cause it's, it's cheaper
They could,
than
but
paying $8,000?
eventually, if it gets to a point where you have to replace it, you're gonna have to pay for digging up putting in an asphalt patch, digging up a road to the main, having a separate contractor come in and do it. Typically, that's why we do it during road projects, or you have large, basically group of people doing it. It's a lot cheaper, you get a larger bang for your buck for getting something.
So this is going in from the roadway in towards the home, not the other way around?
Nope.
They couldn't do this at a later time if they,
They would,
They
you
could.
still have to dig up the road where the connection to the
okay,
main sewer is. So now when the road's already ripped up, you have that access there.
You're
Plus-
covering the patch also, and
This contractor is doing a bunch of them already so that you don't have to pay a separate person their mobilization fees because those are already tied in because
Okay.
the person's already there. So they're getting a better deal by using the contractor that's there than they would be trying to find somebody else to do it.
Are we going on to their properties? Does the contractor need an easement to
We
do
have
any of this?
yeah, we have temporary limited easements,
Within the right, just outside of the right of
just
way?
right outside of the right of
But
way.
we're not going into their homes or
Oh, yeah.
onto
Yeah.
their property?
Oh, yeah, they're like tearing apart, they're actually tearing out my basement floor because I go underneath the wall.
That would
So
then
they're
cover-
completely replacing the basement
No,
floor.
that's supposedly part of the contract.
What do you mean part of the contract?
It's part of the sign off that they have, I guess,
I don't know.
Yeah, basically, Ron Wolf and I think it was Tyler, maybe it was you at the time, I don't know, created the,
Well, Ron and I talked about when I was at a
Right.
meeting, I had concern about us
Mhm.
televising laterals.
That-
Because
yeah.
I believe that to be somebody's private property and I don't think that we're able to just,
no, but that's why we have a notice now, that it's supposed to go out basically, and then there's a penalty if they deny it, basically. if
for the
they-
inspection.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the process at this point, they're going on the property through laborers, and
Is it happening currently?
The piper
Sounds
thing, was
like
it was
it is.
initial consultation came in,
They
right?
came in, Ron Wolf came in, and somebody, I think it was Kirk from Scott Lamer's Construction came, and then they evaluated where.
He said, can we come into your home and take a look?
I got a phone call or a text message, set up a time, we need to come in and we need to evaluate the inside of your house, and that's where they determined what they needed to do. Like, they're tearing apart, like, my basement floor, and because they go underneath the wall. So it's a pretty involved, and they actually need access to a window across the basement as well, because that's where they're shoving the pipe through to bring it through. So it's not just exterior work, it's a lot of interior work as well. So I'm just giving you my point of view of what I experienced, but yeah, this is just the beginning. We're gonna have all these houses along Main Street eventually.
Okay, so what is the benefit to the homeowner then? I really want to understand this, because, okay, so I'm looking at Julie's case, right? This is real, I hope you don't mind if I pull yours out. I know there's other people here, but, so Julie's is $7,625, right? I mean, that's 12 years of $50 a month of a penalty. So what is the benefit to, I mean, even doing this, what's the benefit to the,
So I can tell you as a
to the
homeowner,
homeowner?
as a homeowner, I know that my lateral is not awesome. We've had to call in Roto-Rooter just simply to get roots out of it. And we haven't had trees since 2013. The tree roots are still growing into that lateral. So we know that this is something that needs to get done.
Mhm.
We didn't know it was gonna be $7,600. And
Yeah.
and we know we have to pay for it. We know this
Yeah.
is not a shared cost. But the benefit to us is that now I'll have a lateral that doesn't have tree roots going through it.
But beyond that, I
Okay.
mean, I think the $50 penalty, that's unique to here in Hortonville. If you were to determine that the infiltration was of such significance that it was causing a real concern for the system, which it sounds like you're there with some of these
Mhm.
properties, you could essentially shut off their service if they refuse to repair that lateral. So the benefit here might be $50 a month for now,
Yeah.
but if it got to a point where it was so extreme, we could order that either be replaced at their sole cost and they have to cough up that cash immediately to pay their own contractor
Okay.
to our satisfaction,
And rip up the
or
road.
you no longer have service.
Yeah, so it's sewer service.
Yeah,
is what-
and
And
there are
you have the
communities
ability to
where
shut that off?
we have shut off service.
Basically, if it becomes a health hazard, they have 30 days to basically fix it, or they will be shut off.
But do you have the ability to shut that off?
Well, we shut off the water, which shuts off the sewer.
But that doesn't shut off the seepage into the
No.
No,
pipe. So
but
saying you don't actually have.
Typically, when it becomes a public health hazard, it's
Yeah.
because of fecal matter coming out of the pipe.
Okay,
So
okay, so you're.
If we
okay.
need to, we could go.
if it
dig
gets to
down
a point
further.
where, when there's tree roots going in, eventually it'll break through, and then at some point, there's gonna be fecal matter that'll be coming out of that area.
I, as
Sorry,
a
so-
homeowner, wouldn't want to have to pay to do this
Yeah,
and to repair the road out front that they just
yeah,
did.
yeah. No, I completely.
So I think it's a
understand.
bigger expense
Yeah,
if we wait.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I just,
Right.
it's a lot of money,
No,
and for individuals, and I really want to understand, you know, why it makes sense, why we're talking about having the people, the homeowners pay it, and what the impact is if they do it, and what the impact is if they don't. And I really want to have an understanding of this. I don't
Mhm.
want to just sweep it off and say, okay, yeah, it's not our problem, it's somebody else's. I want to understand that. That's why I'm asking the questions. Okay. So, all right. I mean, I guess my concerns are, now, so a lot of times we do these and they don't come out to the numbers that we gave for assessments. Is that, I mean, we always have
I
the,
think in the past,
the
you
line
guys
that
have
this is what it
estimated
is.
high,
Yeah.
and then when people have come in and they've
This
been
is
upset, you've tried to reduce it for them.
Yeah.
This is different than
okay. I wanna
and
understand.
some of those situations have been unique in that those assessments were contrary to what they had been told, you know,
Okay.
when they were out there, and particularly that newer subdivision.
these amounts will fluctuate, because these are estimates, obviously, so when they come in and actually do the work, it might be plus or minus whatever, depending on, I don't know if they talked to you at all about that, but
We know
based
we're
on the
responsible for it.
Right.
And this was an estimate, and we opted not to replace our water line,
Right.
because they're also offering at that time to replace our water line, and that, there's nothing wrong with the water lines, we're not replacing that. This is 100% our cost.
Okay.
My only worry is when it comes down to, is there a potential, another assessment coming later, sidewalks, all that stuff. So now you've got this expense, and now you've got another layer on top of that. And that's where I worry for the entire stretch of Main Street. Phase 2, Phase 3 is now you've got this expense, and then you've also got the expense of your sidewalk and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And then my other concern, looking at the numbers, is that a lot of these homes are, I mean, they're older, and that's why they have really old pipes, and when you're working on older stuff, sometimes you have to tear up, you know, the floor in the basement to get to stuff, or the wall, or
I would
something of
even
that
think a
nature,
newer
because
home.
of the way it was,
Yeah.
because of the way things were constructed,
Mhm.
so.
The new pipes are a little bit better, but when
I
those
hope
tree
so.
roots get in, it can be tough.
So that's just my 2 cents. I get it. I'm on this list of folks, but eventually this is gonna affect a bunch of people.
Yeah, I think, like I said, ideally, Main Street has a lot of extra funding for it. It's not it's not a surprise to us that we don't necessarily need the special assess like we do for any other or any other project has, typically, we need those special assessment funds to fund that project. This one's different. We have 3 TIDs funding it with county, with state. So it wasn't something that was necessary but the idea was to potentially do it prior to finding this out on the height of the special assessment here. It kind of makes it where I don't know if that's the route we should go.
But is Julie one of the property owners who might benefit from?
Yeah, so I would abstain from this vote. I'm just giving my 2 cents of, this is what they did with Ron is here now, when they were in my home, and what it involves. We were actually thinking we were thinking roughly half the cost initially in our heads, and then when this came, it's not. But we know we're responsible for it, it's ours, and we know we have to pay it, so.
Do they know how long this new method will last? Is there anything, statistics for that?
And that would be a question for our engineer. Ron, if you.
How long is that lateral gonna last for a homeowner that's
With the
doing this
fused,
work?
with the fused poly, new PVC mains, generally they consider them a 60 to 80 year lifespan. I would think this would be similar. I mean, it will probably outlast every one of us in this room, most likely. God willing. I mean, you always have something odd happen, or a mechanical problem or something, but pipe itself is inert, it's impenetrable by roots and all the rest. There's no joints all the way from the main and into the basement of the house.
It's kind of grim. Longer than any of you guys.
I'm just saying, for sure longer than me.
The lateral that's there has outlasted everybody else that's lived in the house, yeah, I mean, so, yeah. I would think it's original. The house was built in the 1880s, so.
So right now what you're looking for is just if they wanted to offer installment payments.
And
For how many years?
So doing this is an engineering question, again, but doing this, are there any downsides to this? I mean, are we reducing the capacity that can flow through in the homeowner because you're shrinking down the size of the pipes? Is there anything that we, as people who don't know anything about laterals or this process, should be aware of?
The majority of these existing laterals are 6-inch clay. They're going to be replaced by, in almost all cases, a 4-inch high-density polyethylene. So there's a reduction in area. However, if you look at the televising on the clay, they're full of cracks, they're full of roots, they're a lot of times half clogged. The surface texture of the clay pipe is much worse in terms of hydraulic, the ability to flow.
Okay.
And in new construction, we'll use some subdivision that's getting constructed right now. every one of those laterals for a single-family home or even duplex is 4 inch. 4 inch is more than adequate capacity for almost any single-family home, unless it was some, 5,000 square foot with 5 bathrooms and whatever, then you might have a capacity problem. So the 4 inch is plenty of capacity for any normal residence. If that,
Yeah, just, if there's anything else that we need to be aware of that, cause you're not this is not new construction, you're going inside of another existing clay pipes and, there's no issues with, the weight of the clay and ground freeze or that, there's
Doesn't-
nothing at all.
doesn't change the position of the pipe, doesn't
Okay.
change the depth of the pipe. So, if you haven't had a problem, if it was 2 feet deep and prone to freezing before, well, then that's gonna be a problem when we're done, because we haven't changed that condition. We're taking the pipe that's there, bursting it out of the way, following behind with a new pipe with new material, so.
Okay. Oh, so they actually burst the clay the clay pipes that are there. It's not the clay sitting and then the other one stays inside of it. You're gonna bust it apart, so it's gonna be.
In some cases, there's just enough room that it would sneak through, but when they fuse the pipe, there's parts of the outside of the pipe that are just slightly larger than the main pipe itself. And then just as a general practice, they kind of burst head through first to bust up that clay and push it out of the way.
Okay.
So it'll go through a cast iron pipe. It could be a cast iron lateral, and it'll bust that out of the way the same as clay. So if it's anything other than, if it was, which it never is, if it was a stainless steel pipe or a ductile iron pipe, there are certain things that will give them trouble, but if it's concrete, clay, plastic, anything like that, it busts it out of the way in advance of pulling anything.
Okay. And then the implementation, like Julie's house, you're gonna rip up a wall or a floor or things like that to do that. Is that built into the expenses here, or is that's gonna fall separately on the homeowners to
That would-
reconstruct whatever needs to be done?
Right, that would fall on the homeowner, or if it's something, and I don't wanna get too specific about specific examples, but there's a presumption that when they get there, that the connection's in the basement, it's not a finished area, it's accessible, all those type of things. If there's something, let's say it's got a carpeted floor in, they would expect that the homeowner would remove the carpet so they could do it. If there's some other improvement, or it's in a closet or it's inaccessible, they would either expect the homeowner to remove it, or that's why we do the home visits, is so that the contractor can see this in real life and he knows what work condition he's in. So there are homes that we get in that you cannot make the connection where you first enter. You've gotta go back maybe 20 feet to a different room in the home and start from there and do, and then there's a line item on there for, special exceptions. If they know that, this is gonna be trouble, we gotta do something extraordinary in here, they have the opportunity to put that down and get that on paper so the homeowner knows, we've got something unique. So there's a premise that it is ordinary, but there's a certain percentage of them that are not ordinary, and,
Will the concrete be put back in?
yes.
I guess that's, as a homeowner, just as long as the concrete's poured back in.
Yeah,
When
that's
all
what
is done.
I'm just making, I just want to make sure that if we're talking about the numbers, there isn't something hidden that we are not aware of, and then pushing that burden off without, everybody being informed of the cost. Okay, thank you.
I think in a lot of these cost spreadsheets too, I guess, because when they're pulling in that new lateral, they can also simultaneously pull in a new poly water lateral. Hortonville's lucky you don't have lead laterals. A lot of these projects in a lot of communities are driven by lead lateral replacement, where what's really driving it as much as the busted clay pipe is the fact that they've got a lead lateral that's under mandates to get replaced. So at the same time, they can pull in the 4-inch sanitary lateral plus a 1-inch water line side by side. Because a lot of times these water laterals are just as old as the sanitaries. In this area, we haven't been having problems with leaks, corrosion, and that. There are other areas in town that you do have that. So there's money involved with the connections on both ends with the water lines, but the pipe in between is, basically they're recovering the cost of materials. I have to look, I think it's like $5 a foot or something. It's very reasonable, in terms of the cost to get that new poly water line pulled in. Where the money comes in is reconnecting the meter. A lot of times the ground systems in these old houses aren't to current codes, so they have to reground the panels and, you know, some of those other type of things. We have had situations in certain cities where the homeowner just wants to pay for the new plastic line to get pulled in, but they don't want it terminated. So they've at least, because for a very modest amount of money, they can get the plastic line that's sticking through the basement floor, and it's somewhere out there in the street. And it's never gonna get cheaper than doing it concurrent with the pipe bursting of the lateral. And then at that point, if they wanted to, say they had a problem with a leak in their lateral, the water lateral, they could go back and hire a plumber to connect it, you know, at the meter horn, reground the panel. You know, they'd have to pay for somebody to dig out at the street to make that connection, but at least, you know, the majority of the pipe is in the ground, just sitting there, inert, waiting for something to happen, I guess.
Okay.
But there is, you know, there's a cost with that too, because rebonding, I have to go on my worksheet here, I think it's like $500 just to rebond the electric panel, if you have to do that. And, you know, so you start adding all that up, and before you know it, it gets to be significant dollars, so.
Thank you for answering all my questions. Everybody.
So are we allowed to go up to 10 years like any other assessment? Because
That
that
sounds like
would
a really
be anywhere
long
between $600 and $900 for each one. You know, if you're looking at it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, is that gonna put a crutch in the system to go out 10 years? Or should we do less? What does everyone think? And the cheapest one was quoted like 59, and then they go up from there. And I mean, you do have the option to pay it off in full, or pay ahead, you know.
Or before the end, but yeah, it's up to you guys on what you wanna do, yeah.
Well, we're probably gonna have to, I mean, whatever we do here, we're probably gonna try to be consistent with the other two phases, I would imagine.
Yeah,
And so what kind of
I think,
liability are we looking at for all three phases then?
well, regardless of what we do here, I think the plan eventually for outside of Main Street going forward would be a 5-year cycle, because then you could have, if we came in and pipe bursted 5 years ahead of time for some of these smaller streets, you'd have 5 years to pay it off, and then you'd have that special assessment for the actual reconstruction of the road. So you basically, the year you're finished with the pipe bursting, you start your road reconstruction special assessment.
Or something like Embarrass or Dewey or something like that.
So
After
anything
these
forward
ones.
basically would be that, Main Street obviously isn't gonna get done until 29, fully, and then so 2030 would be the next one we do. So the plan would be to try to start next year on some of these.
Well, I'm just wondering, because the stretch, the two other stretches, this is the easy, I mean, in terms of, I don't say
Smaller
easy, in terms of the number of residential homes that are gonna have laterals, the other two segments are gonna be significantly more than this.
Correct.
Okay, so so the accounting question is, if we're talking about absorbing this while we get payments, but how much is and is it workable to absorb all three segments as we're doing this? Because if you said a 10-year stretch, right? So instead of 10-year stretch, the people that are here now, they're 3 years into it, and then we're starting the next one, and so then you've got all these other ones, and then you're 4 years in, and you're starting the next one. So the village is holding all of that debt. So how much is that, and what are we?
Well,
Is that something that I understand? We're charging off the interest to it as well, but
right. I mean, we have debt capabilities. I mean, we have very low debt ratio for what we are allowed by the state. I mean, I think trying to keep it between 5 and 7 would probably be beneficial, but I get if you wanna do more. And, you know, even if you have it at a higher amount of years, anytime someone sells, they pay that off, that's part of that title company would come in and do a title search and basically pay it off early, at the sale of the property. So, I mean, there's some where we only have like two left on some of the other special assessments we have had, and some will just continue on with that being applied to their taxes until it's
Okay.
finished.
So right now we have, I think the highest one in here is around 89, is that right? Somewhere in there, 88,000 something?
Something like that.
Maybe 83, 89,
I
something
think
like
it
that.
was like
86?
total, together, all of them.
Okay, so, yeah, 8890 looks like is the highest one. Engineering question, when we start looking at the other two segments of that, is there potential to have some that are significantly higher than that?
I would say that would be the exception. My prediction is that the price in the subsequent phases would be less, because the homes, the distance the homes are off the road in some cases are quite a bit higher here than in other more traditional neighborhoods, you know, where they're at the 25-foot setback or the 30-foot setback routinely. And we've got some more unique circumstances where, I shouldn't get into specifics, but there's some of them where the old sanitary system drained out the back of the house because it existed before there was any collection system, and so you have to go around, you know, you start in the back of the house and go to the street, rather than just go from the street to the front of the house. So as we get to the newer parts of the village, it's gonna become more customary, and I think you're gonna see those costs come down. Also, there are less of them this time around, and I think the cost that was bid is probably a little bit higher than if you had, say, 30 of them or 40 of them. So I think to answer your question, you could always have an exception where one comes in at 10 or 12, but
Okay.
the general average cost I would expect would be less in subsequent phases.
Okay. That was the reasoning, is if we're gonna have some coming in at, you know, 12 to 15,000 for a shorter period, it's gonna make it more difficult. So, okay. So, even at 7 years, that's $1,000 a year, 1,100, 1,200. That's 1,200. I guess it's not horrible, it's not great.
It's gonna have to come back to you. I think what you're really doing is you're giving Nathan direction
Yeah.
on what you're looking for. I mean, totally up to you, but maybe what you do is you start at that somewhere between 5 and 7 and see what that looks like and what the response from property owners is. Especially if we're gonna be doing it by agreement, you're gonna have more communication with them than you would in the traditional special assessment context. And so I think that there's good opportunity for feedback even ahead of that next meeting.
Okay.
That's just my suggestion. But I don't want you to feel like that decision is final. If you say 7 years, like it's not set in stone. We're not at that point yet.
Okay.
So basically, we need a motion to start,
I don't,
No,
you need
just
just a
a-
head nod.
just a head nod.
Just on that,
If there's a consensus on what sounds like a good starting point.
Well, I would go.
Can I interject something? When would that decision be made though? Because we've got a window here that we're working in, because people have to make a decision and sign the waivers. And we've got a fairly limited time period where, you know, at some point the contractor needs to know, okay, what's the list, which ones am I doing, and you gotta give us a date. I just wanna make sure that this isn't out there too far, because there's probably a bunch of people saying, I don't know what to do with this form, because I don't know an interest rate or how many years, I don't know what the repayment term is, so I'm just gonna wait. And we're gonna run into a little collision course where, once we do give them that information, we don't have enough time then to get this spooled up for construction. I don't know when the next meeting will be, what, August
There's 6.
6th. We might be okay on that, but then if we give them another 30 days past that, we'll probably be in trouble. Given the schedule.
Well, maybe I'm confused, it's my first meeting back, but right now we just have a waiver for the public hearing notice, correct?
The waiver also, when the waiver is signed, it instructs the village to proceed with the work. The part that we're missing is under what fiscal arrangement.
Sure.
So
And I
if they plan on writing a
conceptually-
check, they can just sign the waiver and off we go. If they want it financed, though, we don't know the finance part of that equation.
Even if we have a waiver for the public hearing, we're still gonna have to issue that assessment notice in
Nope.
statute?
The waiver instructs them, the waiver instructs the village to proceed with the work on behalf of the property owner, and that they agree to repay the cost. But the one part that's missing out of that is repay under what term? There's no special assessment, it's not police power, it's not any of that. The waiver just says, all right, because they have two choices, well, they have a third choice. They can either have the village do the work under this construction contract. If it's defective lateral, okay, starting with the premise that it's a defective lateral, they either can have it done as part of the village contract, or they can hire their own contractor to do it.
But, okay, so hold on, I think that we're talking about two separate things.
Okay.
We have a waiver right now saying, I as property owner consent to having this contractor move forward with this work.
Right.
The special assessment process, I believe, will still need to be seen through.
It's not a
If we're
special
gonna-
assessment.
Well, but it is, if we're levying it as a special assessment. Which could happen after the work occurs, or by agreement.
So, the structure for special assessment traditionally is confined to public works in the right of way, not private work.
I disagree with that. I think it's if it benefits the property.
I defer to you. Okay.
But
If you wanna call it a special assessment, the village actually has greater powers if it's called a special assessment, and they do, just with the waiver saying, yeah, we will agree to pay this special charge.
I actually look at the waiver.
Okay. I don't.
I'm sorry, I wish that I had seen it before I got here, but, I understand what you're saying, and I think that depending on how that waiver is read, we could certainly have their consent to move forward with that work. The board might still have more work to do, depending on how they wanna collect. If they want it to be a lien against the property, I think we still have to follow the statutory procedures. I don't know how it would be a lien against the property otherwise.
Okay.
Or I'm gonna learn
It's
something
a-
new, which will be
well,
helpful for me in other
Yeah,
communities.
and this
but-
is, we kind of got into the weeds with that in terms of, and it's vital, I'm just saying that the decision on interest rate and terms is an additional separate avenue that has to be decided. The mechanics of the legality of, is it a special assessment or is it a special charge?
Well, not to interrupt, but on the waiver, I took a picture of it. Method of payment for the cost of the special assessment shall be set forth in the declared Hortonville special assessment policy. So it's treated as like a special assessment, right?
It sounds like that was the intent.
There's two things on this waiver. There's the consideration to do the improvements, and then talks about the payment, but then also the temporary limited easement for private lateral work. I think maybe Ron's got a copy there for you. I haven't signed it because I don't fully understand it.
So we still have to have a hearing on this one, right?
No, they can waive the hearing
Okay.
requirements, and we can do it by agreement.
All right, but we're not voting to settle all the terms right here. We're just giving some guidance, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's all we could do.
So
in this moment.
my input on this would be, that our guidance, from my opinion, is that our guidance should start at 5 years. We can always extend it to 7. Nobody wants to start at 7 and then pull it back to 5. Okay, but when we have to set the terms, and we have to vote on them, because this is just like, boom, here you go. I mean, tonight, I would say start at 5. That would be my opinion. And then if we need to, we can potentially find a way to work it back to 7 if we want, if there's a consensus that 5 is too onerous on the homeowners, or if there's a demand for it. That's just my opinion. So, I don't know if anybody else has a.
When are they doing the pipe bursting on the schedule?
I can't have an opinion on this.
Yeah, Julie has an opinion, she just can't share it.
I have an opinion, I can't share it. For me, it depends on if there's
So, but they're supposed to have a
assessment
30-day stay.
Yes, I understand.
on top of that.
I understand. That's why I'm leaving some flexibility, but it's difficult to go back. If we do set it, it's just, if we give guidance,
I
say 7.
I understand where you're at. I just,
Very good.
I think we should probably do the maximum that we feel comfortable doing.
Okay.
Starting, just because at this point, with the timeline that we have with trying to get this legal process figured out, also sending it back to you guys, I don't know how much time we're gonna have to negotiate, where if we talk to the homeowners and say, the board said this was the max amount of time that they're willing to give you, this is what, then we were going in there with something where they can like estimate out if they want to accept it or not.
Is everyone okay with this 7?
I mean, the max, whatever that maximum amount is, that's up to you guys on figuring out what you wanna
If we
do.
do it once, we could get stuck doing it 2 more times.
Well, yes.
So maybe
We'd
you
have
don't
to
want
be,
10?
we'd have to be consistent. I would say 7.
I think
What
that's
does
more
everyone
reasonable.
else think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have concerns that we're gonna be piling on top of this as well, right? When it comes, so after we assess Julie here, for hers, I'm sorry, I keep using Breeze as an example.
But it's,
you're-
I'm the first one
you're-
listed
yeah,
there, so yeah.
So, a few months down the road, we're gonna be, okay, Julie, you have to pay for the sidewalk in front of your house now too, so here's some more money that we're going to charge you, so.
They are gonna assess the sidewalks, just like in a typical road reconstruction, like Mill Street or,
Nathan's saying no, but
you're saying no.
I think that was initially the thought, because we didn't realize that this was gonna be the extent of the
No,
amount.
but when they do phase 2 and 3, no, not for
With Main
them.
Street, we can get by with just doing the laterals. The problem is, you get into a weird spot in some of these other areas where we can get ahead, so we're doing it ahead of time so that they're not getting stuck in 1 year with about a $12,000 assessment. It would be, the laterals would be replaced by years. After those are paid off, the street assessment would begin for the road reconstruction on some
So the
of these.
homeowners are gonna get a street assessment too, but not the commercial buildings?
No, and the idea with Main Street was, initially we were gonna do it because we just wanted to try to somewhat be consistent. We had the funding for it. The issue is in some of these other areas, we don't have the funding to pay for the whole road. So the homeowners end up paying a portion of that road reconstruction. If we go forward, the idea is within these 3 years, we can kind of get ahead of it. And so then when the next construction project happens after Main Street, those people, so let's say Embarrass Street was the next one in 2031. Next year, Aaron and I kind of worked out the construction and pipe bursting schedule, and we kind of just estimated, and we said, if that was the next one in 2031, we would do basically the pipe bursting next year, then they would have a special assessment to pay off. By the time that's done, getting paid off, that next project would be starting and
Then
then
you'd have the sidewalk assessment.
for those sections, yes,
Because
then,
those projects don't have state and county funding
And
and
TID
TID funding like Main Street does.
but it
You'd
can-
have one and then you'd have another one.
right,
Yeah,
if
you
you just
have one assessment
continue.
and have another one.
Instead of having a set, just a 5-year assessment, you'd probably have maybe a 10-year where they're all just, but that's kind of our only other option, other than charging the homeowners directly or letting them pay for it. So that was kind of the idea, but
I think doing the laterals is a good idea. My best friend had to do one on Richmond Street in Appleton. It makes this look cheap. It was horrible. It was twice as much money, and it was 8 years ago.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, it's not cheap.
yeah, well, it's not really a question of whether we're doing, it's just a question of how long.
And
Stretch.
as a seller, if you were gonna sell your home, I mean, if you have an older home that's like 100 years old, and they see you still have the same old in there, and you have to disclose that that you use Roto-Rooter, that could really bug a buyer. So now Julie can say, oh, we're all up to speed.
On to the next project.
Okay,
What's next,
so,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is it 5 or 7? That's the question.
or 6,
That's it.
yeah,
Or 10.
5 to 7 is the recommendation.
It's gonna be 5 or 7, or 5?
5, 6, or 7 is the recommendation. Yeah, I think it would be great if we could make it flexible, but I don't know that that's feasible. I mean, because some of these are less, right? I mean, it would be great if you could just come out with a math formula and say, well, yours is $6,000, so you're 6 years, yours is, over 7,000, yours is 7 years, yours is 5,000, yours is 5 years. I think that'd be
A
awesome.
sliding scale.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be, I think that'd be great, but I think that's probably an accounting nightmare and a no-go. So, 5, 6, or 7?
Thinking closer to 7.
Are you okay with that?
I don't have a care.
He's not getting
I
that.
feel
mean-
like Jane's the one you have to ask.
Yeah, I'm looking at Jane going, this is, because that's it, you've got to keep track of all that.
The
Yeah.
reason that we always say like no more than 10 years is because there
Yeah.
needs to be such a significant change of circumstances and staffing can change and they tend to get lost.
Yeah.
We have more better processes than we used to have too.
Right.
But I'm not comparing.
Right, no, I know,
It's-
I think either way, she would have had a longer one anyway. I mean, some of them we have currently on the books are 10 years from when the construction was, which actually, I believe if there was a few on Mill Street and that made that, or not Mill, maybe it was Cedar, that were a little higher, and so we did
Mhm.
a longer period of
Mhm.
time, which
Yeah.
was about the same, about 1,000 a year. That's kind of where we had that at. So, I mean, we're kind of used to them now,
Yeah.
and we've been doing them for constantly since at least I've been here, and I know before, so.
I wrote down the assessments and what years we have on them, if you wanna know that. Cedar Street is 10 years, Wild Wind is 5 years, the alleyway was 4 years, Wild Wind Phase 2 was 4 years, and Mill Street was 6 years. If that helps.
So we've been all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, then they've all been based off of the amount of the
Yes.
assessment for the most
Right.
part.
right,
And the higher
Some of them are
assessments, the longer the time period
yeah.
Right.
that we granted. So,
And also income, like house assessed values, we kind of tied those into, to kind of see.
6.
He wants 6.
I'm saying 6.
Sure.
Go right in the middle. 6.
6
Is everybody okay with 6? Okay,
We're
Then we
using our
will-
fingers.
then we will move on. Yes, Ron?
Sorry.
No more,
Okay,
no
we're checking them
more.
off one at a time. Interest rate.
6.5.
Oh, you covered that already?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
didn't hear that.
You were late.
It's okay.
yeah. Anything else? Otherwise, we will move on. Okay, we'll go to C, discussion and possible action on Public Works vehicle.
So this came through Public Works Committee with asked for some additional information. I think we did get 3 quotes from our state vendor. which are, I handed you all a sheet of paper that kind of shows our vehicles and the quotes. But just to take a step back on some of the other information that was in the packet. So basically for Public Works, every Monday I meet with the team. Monday morning, we talk about the different tasks that we're gonna try to tackle for that week. Outside of the day-to-day meter changeouts, diggers hotline locates, different things like that. And then we also have a bucket, which is used the Microsoft, it's a program called Microsoft Planner, that as tasks come up, they're added into the planner. And so as jobs get accomplished, if they still have time, then they go into the planner and try to pick some of those things off. So this is a list of just different tasks that were in planner that were accomplished outside of the normal day-to-day things that were going on over the last 12 months. So there's over 300 different tasks on it. Just wanted to show you kind of, in the Public Works Committee, there's a lot of discussion on what's just a normal week look like. And there's another 300 tasks that never even made it to the planner. Let's say Bar calls me and said somebody hit a stop sign behind the bowling alley. Can you guys go put a new one up? And they just go do it. It never even hits planner. But when we tried to put together, I know there was talk of like how many hours is each truck used on a normal week. I mean, is that in the winter, in the summer? Like 3 weeks ago, for 3 weeks they were doing asphalt patching. This week, the focus was on street painting, curb paintings, crosswalks, things like that. And when they're done at the end of the day, if they have more time, they keep picking things off of that planner. So they should never have nothing to do. There's always stuff to do as long as the department heads and myself especially can stay ahead of them on that planner. There's always tasks that can be done. So the main thing is just that right now we're going to be down to 3 trucks for basically 8 employees that for day-to-day operations. And I think adding another larger high-capacity truck with another plow will really help benefit our snow removal capabilities like we saw during the larger storms this spring. We had a plow go down, but it was right at the end of the storm. But if that would have happened at the beginning of the storm, we would have been in trouble. So I really feel like I think one of these 3 trucks would help close a lot of gaps that we have. We did start this process looking at used vehicles, and the price on those used vehicles was like $30,000-$40,000 for a truck with 100,000 miles on it. Where you get into with these state bids and the discounts that we get, if you get a brand new truck with all the warranties associated with it for $59,000 to $60,000. Our truck fleet was then set. We have a couple other newer ones too that we can move forward with and start focusing on our other equipment needs. I know it was mentioned the one Chevy quote had bright red or something like that. That can be changed to white. I think there's a consensus that we just stay with white for all of our Public Works trucks, just to be consistent.
And the question I had for you earlier, does it change the price?
Yeah, there's, we could, because there's a lot of vendors that we can use this price for. I'm sure we can negotiate a white truck for that same price.
Okay. And then I do have a question. You, in something, it might have been what you sent me earlier today, that's why I'm taking a look, that you said the Ram is not good for snow removal?
Yeah. It's a little lighter than some of the other ones.
Okay. So we should keep that in mind when we're looking at these.
Well, and I think
Or,
the other thing to keep in mind with the bids is what the guys feel good doing maintenance on. Most of them, from my understanding, for doing maintenance on the Fords and the Dodges, they're not as comfortable with as the Chevys, is my understanding.
They work on their own trucks, and a lot of them have Chevys.
So, yeah. Typically, when we have Fords, we bring them to the Ford dealership.
mhm.
And those are usually a lot more expensive to,
I'd be comfortable with either, to be honest.
yeah.
And just to, I'll say what I asked you in an email earlier today. The question was, We currently have a water truck that we're looking at maybe replacing in a few years-ish. The question was, could this new, because the water truck gets used every single day, could this new truck be made into the new water truck, and then the current water truck that's a little older, that has some rust and has some cosmetic, get a bed put on there, could that be used as your snow plowing, your salt, so you're not doing a plow and salt on a brand new truck? And you said that that isn't something, I'm just trying to think of, like, you're taking a
So-
brand new truck off the lot, and you're gonna.
You're also talking a different fund, right?
Mhm.
We always talk about how water sewer is a different fund.
Okay,
So
I get
now,
you.
now we have that 60,000, we still have to spend this year
Okay.
with the bond,
Okay,
so.
that I wasn't taking into play.
Yep.
But that was just a thought of trying not to put a plow and a salter on a brand new truck.
Unfortunately, that's kind of public works.
Yeah.
I mean. a lot of-
They're doing a much better job of spraying everything down to where they get done and get the salt off it as much as possible.
Do we have a plow
Yeah.
that mounts on to any one of these? Or does it only mount on those?
No, this
Okay.
includes a
We're gonna
plow.
have to get it
This,
from
this
Bob.
would be,
Those
this
comes with a
price
plow?
is with a new,
Okay,
with
this
the
comes
plow
with a
too.
plow, okay.
It's truck
I was
and
looking
plow.
through the assessment.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
it's
see it.
truck and plow.
Okay. I saw the package, but I didn't see the plow.
And all the hookups that it needs.
Yeah, I saw the alternator and hookups and stuff.
And I'm not stuck on a brand, but if you're saying that the Dodge is a lighter truck, I guess I didn't even look at the weight on any of these, but if you're saying that it doesn't do well in the snow, the other one doesn't do as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was a common thing I heard, from the guys after a few years.
Okay, just.
I can attest the Dodges are light and driving them every day. They're super light trucks.
So I'm not partial to a particular brand, I'm looking at bottom line, what are the taxpayers paying for?
In the handout that I gave you have all three prices.
Yeah, I'm looking at the weight,
Oh.
I'm looking for weight, is what I'm looking for.
Are the warranties all similar too?
That I did not look into, I would assume they're probably pretty close.
Because you'll probably end up using it pretty hard.
No.
Usually pretty standard, but you never know.
And maybe I'm just missing it, but does anyone see the weight on any of these, like the weight of the actual vehicle? Sorry, and I should have looked, I thought of looking and then I got rushed.
Do they use different tires for plow trucks?
We do put snow tires on it.
You do. You switch them out in the winter.
They're pretty much all 3 years, 36,000 miles is kind of what's looking
I
like.
would think they're pretty much all the same.
And what do we, yeah, so like we have a Chevy, we have a Dodge Ram, and then we've got Ford.
Doesn't matter to you, I would say take the one that's $2,000 cheaper if everything's equal.
Right.
I mean, if everything's not equal, then, you know, then that makes a difference.
We would need a motion though on which one.
I'll make a motion to approve the, public, to approve the Public Works vehicle purchase of the 2027 Ford Super Duty 250 XL plus plow for not to exceed $58,616.50.
I'll second that, or I'll keep in here.
Roll call, Jim.
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay, we'll go to D, discussion and possible action on Opera House updates in front of the building.
So this was kind of brought up to our attention, a few different issues with the Opera House. The renter there up in the Alliance Church asked if we knew about some of the issues with the water coming in from the coming into the basement. Basically, there's I don't know, there's pretty much old window cells alongside that front area that they kind of mortared in the windows. I think that was done back in the 2000s. And right now there's just boards over the top that have been sitting there and or rotted out, just grates. So, you know, we were looking at that area and we talked with our engineer over there too to kind of look at it to see if there's something we should do now while we're ripping up the concrete. We have the concrete guys there. It makes sense to get those filled in the right way and have that be put in with, they said they did this a lot in Oshkosh when they were down there. McMahon kind of had that project and they've dealt with that similar type of thing. And the idea would be to fill that in, put in some type of membrane, and then if we wanted to, we could kind of concrete that front area, and then you could bring in some planters and some seeding if you wanted to. I know eventually the plan would be to be a community center. Would be nice to have some type of seeding out front, etc. But the other thought was to try to figure out a way to put in a ADA accessible entrance in that area. I think we're going to be very limited on how we can do that, though. Some of the issues, I don't know if Ron's, you were a part of some of that? No.
On the periphery.
Okay. There was some issues with the current landing spot size and a few things with the that would just make it a lot harder and a lot bigger of a project to kind of take on. If you wanted to make that as an ADA access point, we would have to kind of submit some of the plans to the state in order to do that, because it would be connecting into that state property, because it's part of the historical landmark. So the handrails on both sides would have to get approved by the state, and at this point I'm guessing the timeline wouldn't work out if we wanted to do that. So
That's why an elevator was put in the building.
Right.
Because they made that ADA.
and it is ADA accessible from the back, and I'm guessing at that time they looked at doing it in the front as well and decided it probably wasn't going to work with the shape and everything of the building.
And that's why the elevator was put in.
So, but the area up front still could be done at this point. Otherwise, if you don't want to, you can leave it as is. But then if we did come in the later years and try to do that, you're going to just kind of be going over some of that new concrete, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's kind of makes more sense when you have them there to kind of do that work. So, granted, we don't have an estimate on the cost right now. I was hoping to get one, but obviously you can't make any decisions. I just wanted to make sure that you guys, if this was something you wanted to look into, obviously if the pricing was decent.
Another additional reason that this came up too is the property manager that's working for Alliance right now is talking about water issues coming in those windowsills, and this would take care of that.
So, I guess my concern is structure of the building, infrastructure, and having to come back pretty soon to kind of fix this up anyway.
Well, the trees that are there are kind of too big for that front area anyway. They're too close to the building.
My other thought with it is it kind of hides it for what it is. I think that's the whole point of the state declaration too, is kind of, the facade is supposed to be
Unique.
right.
And so I look at this as, if we were to make that improvement, I've been to this building for my entire life. And a lot of people that are at events there, they're outside talking. You know, it's to have an outdoor area would not be an awful thing. Plus it would help mitigate that water or the dampness issue from the basement. Not that it's loads of water, but it's a dampness.
He said there has been some water coming in though
Yeah,
too,
there-
more than it was in the past.
Okay.
So we
During
would
very
have
hard
to-
rains.
We'd have to fix it eventually anyway,
Mhm.
Right.
so we should do it when we're in the middle of it,
That was-
construction.
Yeah.
If we can do it cheaper, it would only make sense.
Right. I mean, the finances for the downtown project are really good right now. Everything's paid for. We still have everything paid for without the calculation of the $50,000 grant we got for the Memorial Square. So that savings isn't calculated in, so that is stuff we could use towards this area. So it's not like we wouldn't potentially have the money as long as it's not 50,000, which I don't think it would be, but I don't
Where's
know
the
what
property line? So I'm looking at what's there as hardtails
It's-
now, and I know that there's
Yeah.
that weird little alley in there.
Are you meaning between hardtails and?
Yeah,
It's pretty much at that kind of,
so the concrete could potentially go up to the property line. So it would get rid of that weird little grassy area.
no.
No.
That is where basically, that is where I believe
That's the property.
hardtails starts.
That's, okay, all right, just trying to,
Yeah.
okay. And the steps would remain the same steps,
Yeah.
okay? Because I know that with the State Historical Society, or the Register, the biggest thing for them when they replaced those doors a few years ago, Carl and I worked together, and the doors had to look appropriate for the building.
Mhm.
That was the only big thing that they had. But I think if the stairs stay the same, I don't think that's a big deal. You wouldn't have to go to the state for that.
I mean, yeah. It,
Do you actually want a motion on this, or just a head nod?
yeah, I mean, if you guys are good with it, I would actually, yeah, let's do a motion to
I would say, yeah,
proceed.
that way you know what direction to go in, and
If it's, yeah, I'll bring it back as soon as I can. It should be good on the 8th. They're not doing concrete until September, is my understanding, so,
okay.
the only thing would be the window cell portion, which I don't know what that would look like, if it's the same group, or we'd have to they probably have to find a different subcontractor for that, but.
So we'll do a motion without having any sort of a cost for putting in an ADA compliant entrance, is that what you're?
It's not.
It's not ADA compliant.
No.
It's just basically putting concrete kind of, and figuring out the window issue below. It wouldn't be something we would approve until I get a quote for you, but I can
Okay.
move forward with kind of, if you guys are all on board with it.
Just a motion to say what we want done, which
Right.
would be the window wells, and is all we would really need tonight, To go
And the
ahead with it.
concrete.
yeah.
Cause I think even if you do, yeah, sorry.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we would need that motion.
I'm not really sure what the
I
motion is.
don't understand it either. I don't know what we're gonna vote on. We don't have any numbers, we don't have a plan, we don't, what can we?
You're just making a motion for him to go ahead with the window,
Trying
fixing
to
the
get the
windows.
engineer, basically, it's a motion to have the engineering team draw basically up what needs to happen.
And bring back the
And bring back
numbers.
a bid.
Okay.
It's not something I need a motion for, I was just, I wanna
Yeah.
make sure everyone's on board before I move forward, and I've only heard from, I think, 2 or 3 of you, so if you guys are all good with that, and if it makes sense, I'm good.
Yeah, that's a good estimate.
Okay,
Thank you.
everyone's good?
Yes.
How much it costs to fix it?
He's gonna get quotes then.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I mean,
Yeah. All right, then we will move on to E, discussion and possible action on temporary no parking during construction of Main Street.
So this was something, after Brian Barber, police chief, the public works director, and myself kind of, were looking at, a few meetings ago, we discussed kind of some of the parking issues on South Nash Street. We had a preliminary kind of discussion, maybe that was at public safety, right? About two areas that we had concerns with on South Nash Street. So we knew we didn't have another meeting until the construction started, and the detour was up, and we decided that we were gonna do the temporary no parking. And so we implemented that. The idea is to keep the temporary no parking until the end of October, when the detour is done. And then at that point, if the board wanted to address those areas, we could address that in ordinance at that time for those two areas. The business owner next to with the Black Otter asked us to kind of, she had some concerns on some of the areas too outside of her business, and actually asked us to kind of, if there's something we could do, one of the owners I should say, I mean, it's a bad area anyway, and now there's a ton more traffic coming through. So we agreed with her and implemented that as well. The board, if they want to basically revert back and disregard what staff did, or change what staff did, you guys have the power at this point to do that. This was our preemptive thing, and now we gotta bring it to you for approval to kind of continue it going forward.
How is it marked right now?
It's painted.
It's painted, okay.
Yep, it just was painted last night.
Okay, which is, okay, I looked
So,
over the weekend.
Yeah, they can be grayed out again if needed. They would be grayed back if we decide we want to revert it all back at the end of October.
So this is the spot in front of the Creekside Creamery.
Yep.
This is the spot on the east side of Nash at Lakeview.
Correct.
Okay. And then this is the west side of Nash near Dewey Street.
South side of Nash on the what? Yeah.
On the west
On the
west side of the
road.
street.
Yep.
But south of Dewey
And north.
and north.
There
Okay.
was a small portion north that we took out to, basically it was to the guy on the corner's mailbox. With the pole at that stop sign, it was hard to see, and that's where the complaint came in. There was a motorcycle that was coming around, and there's a truck there, couldn't see him, almost hit him. And the business owners witnessed a few close calls multiple times, and that was why her concerns were looked at.
So what do you need a motion from the board to accept those temporary no parking
Yep.
areas?
That's based on that new ordinance we created.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if you wanted at this point, you guys could revert those back, and basically end that no parking temporary.
I'm fine with them. And make a motion to accept the temporary no parking during the construction of Main Street in the areas mentioned earlier.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Jim?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. F, discussion and possible action on O-5-26, creating right-of-way boulevard maintenance ordinance.
So, I got a question from a resident, and where is it in the packet?
No, there's nothing
No.
like that.
Yeah, I got nothing there.
Push it to the next meeting. I apologize. It's not drastic. Basically, we don't have anything that basically says the resident is responsible for that little boulevard strip in front of their properties. It's typically, I think the way we would look at it is if you didn't maintain it, the village staff would have to, and then we would assess it back to the property owner.
Do you mean like the terrace?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's like I don't know, kind of weird that we don't have that, or anything kind of labeling that.
Oh, I'll make a motion to defer the discussion on R13-26. No, never mind. I'll make a motion to defer O-5-26, the creating of the Railway Boulevard Maintenance Ordinance.
I'll second.
Roll call, Jim?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay, G, discussion and possible action on resolution R-13-26, amending village budget for stormwater portion of TID 3 project.
So this was basically the village's portion, the TID's portion of the tennis court project that the school did. Basically, it's the stormwater costs that we basically agreed to kind of do. The problem was, we had it in the budget last year, they never gave us, I kept asking them for the invoice, and didn't get it, because I think they had some delays with the courts. So they ended up giving it to us this year, that's why it wasn't in the budget this year. Initially, it's about 18,000 under what we were expecting, but this is basically doing that budget amendment to cover that cost.
I'll make a motion to approve R-13-26, amending the village budget for stormwater portion of TID 3 project.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Jim.
Aye.
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 Motion carried. We'll move to 10, report of village officials. A, clerk treasurer, Jane.
My report was in the packet.
Any questions for
I do.
Jane?
The P4, that's the place that went in the old hardtails, is that?
Yes.
Okay. I
Before
was-
13.
I wasn't aware what the name was.
I have a question. So this, like, really long list you gave us of the operator license, so
Mhm.
there, is this, so that anybody that's on this list is approved, but if you're not on the list,
Those are all the approved operators, yes.
okay,
There have been no denials as of
okay.
yet,
But if it's not, somebody who's not on the list, then they're not approved? Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
that's as of July 1.
And I get it, it revolves. I get it, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to B, director of public works, Aaron.
My report was in the packet, and I just met with the people down on the sidewalk project on Grandview. All the landscaping and everything, all this concrete work should be finished by tomorrow. Only thing left then is the asphalting the road and a small patch where we put in a stormwater grate. Don't have a timeline on that, but I was hoping soon.
So are the barricades down, or will be down tomorrow?
I think, I'll contact them. I think that their plan was to leave it up till the asphalt was done, but I don't really see a need to if they're not gonna be in shortly. So we'll find out. If they're not gonna be in for a while, maybe we take
The
this.
developer told me that they had till the end of July,
Okay.
according to him. That was about a month and a half ago, so I don't know if that included rain days or smoke days, I don't
No,
know.
I'm just getting questions from people asking.
And everything else
Looks like
is
it's
done
done.
now. I mean,
Yeah.
they need the barricades up today, but after tomorrow, they, shouldn't need them until they do the asphalt.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Aaron? Okay, we'll move to C, police chief, Brian.
Reports in the packet, just a couple, community events coming up for us, trying to out some training hours here while school's not in session and getting everybody to those, but that's it.
Okay, any questions for Brian? Okay, we'll move to D, library director, Ally.
My report was not in the packet. We have just shy of 1,100 registrations for our summer library program this year, which is pretty good on track for us. Some of the shortcomings for our summer programming has been due to heat and storms. We have had one Greenville Farmers Market this entire summer because it's either been in the 90s or raining, so we haven't been able to do as much Greenville outreach as we have tried to do. We'll be closed on Monday. We are having a very large computer system upgrade that is affecting the entire 50 location library consortium. So we'll have a week of downtime where we won't really be able to do a whole lot for most things. So that's a little unfortunate that it's right in the thick of our summer programming. But we are going to do whatever we can do to stay open and keep plugging away.
Any questions for Ally? Okay, we will move to E, attorney. Ashley,
Happy to be back. That's all I got.
happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to F, administrator. Nathan?
Kinda busy for the most part, running from task to task, but, biggest concern right now is downtown, and the lack of progress right now. Obviously, I think most people see that. Nothing's been delayed in the ending timeline other than basically the bridge going out. We will be meeting with the contractor on Monday, like we do every Monday, and I think there's gonna be some conversations there on kind of the laning of certain things. Other than that, the pedestrian trail, I should be getting that legal description so that we can have it as a recorded easement, so that there will be access for pedestrians around, basically going through that mid-con area. I've been holding off on saying anything until we have a signed contract with him. He has given me verbal commitment to it, and kind of helped with kind of the setup of it, and he had some of his staff come out and help with cleanup and stuff as well. So, I have after getting that, I will be sending that off to the attorney. They will be drawing up the actual document to get recorded, so by the time that the bridge goes down, we should have that access point set, so.
Couple questions.
Yeah.
The delays that are happening, or I get it that it doesn't change the end date, but the
Right.
delays that are happening, is it this because of Pfeiffer Brothers? Is this a McMahon? Is this Vinton? Is this?
It's a Pfeiffer Brothers contract for the bridge, so that's what's being delayed for the most part. Vinton's plan was always to kind of come in on the 27th to start doing some of their stuff. I know Elmstar will be in next week, basically working on the street light on that intersection of Warner and Main, and they will be installing some type of traffic control for new stop signs there temporarily, while construction is going on, because currently the only thing we have is a little stoplight. So those will be down probably sometime next week early. But other than that, they've kind of been the main one. I mean, we've had sock hunting, but
Okay.
it was the bridge for the most part that we thought was gonna be down a lot sooner.
So 40 days is what I'm understanding.
40 working days.
40 working days is what I've
So-
learned. So here's the question, so now we're not gonna be done before the school starts,
Correct. We were
Right.
probably at the edge even if they started on the 8th.
correct? So now this temporary easement that also could be revoked if there's vandalism or if there's issues, right? That's the safe route for these kids to walk to school that are on the west side of that bridge, right?
To walk, yeah.
If they're
There
walking.
so I should reiterate, this pedestrian access trail is a trail, it's not meant for vehicles at all, and
If people are driving vehicles down, because you're, yeah.
Right.
So it can be revoked, which could potentially hurt
basically
our,
on the owner's gonna get full option to
Yep.
revoke it.
And they
That was part
should.
of the discussion we had,
Yeah.
so,
so now what are you doing, chief, with this trail? What's the plan to enforce so that we don't lose this privilege?
Well, I mean, it's a discussion that came up between Nathan and I. I mean, I think we have to be over there more, obviously monitoring, especially when school starts, because we're gonna be pushing a lot of kids through there. I'm guessing walkers. Talked with the district this morning, Nathan and I did, just about, potential transportation issues down there. And, some of it, I think, even going as far as Main and Nash having to probably work with our crossing guards as school starts, because we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. But I think all we can do based on the timelines provided is just continue to monitor and make adjustments as
Okay.
necessary,
And
right?
that's what I'm worried about, is the kids walking to school.
yeah,
The other issue that's come up, and maybe I should have brought this up during your report, is there's a lot more of not pedal assist e-bikes, but throttle e-bikes that are on the sidewalk and are buzzing past people in strollers and whatnot. that particular pedestrian trail, is that gonna be where people could take like potentially a motorized vehicle down there, and what are we doing about that?
Depends on the e-bike and what the size is, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think there's obviously these conversations going on about ordinances, but there are laws that also, you know, dictate what can be driven and not driven. I would treat it just like we would anywhere else, you know?
I just worry about this privilege of this trail,
Mhm.
which I feel is a fragile, because if somebody ruins that,
Yeah.
then we're potentially losing it, so.
You know, and that was a conversation, like I said, I had with Nathan and Todd, was that, you know, I think in the beginning stages of the school year, to allocate some of our SRO resources to some of these intersections, these walkways, trails, and be monitoring those earlier and later, you know. I think it's just something we're gonna have to do with construction, but.
Thank you. Not saying you're not doing your job.
Yeah,
It's just,
no, I get it.
there's a lot of kids that walk from that area,
Yeah.
and I just really kind of worry about their safety, but I also worry about potential vandalism, so.
Are
Yeah.
kids bused from Swiderski's and the cottages?
Yes.
So most of them could ride a bus.
But not if you're east of that.
Yeah.
Crystal Springs, you know, you've got all that
Right.
back in there and the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just, and it was a conversation that came up this morning with Todd about the transportation piece, and I think it's 2 miles from schools. Beyond, they will provide transportation, but they do out there because it's considered a hazardous because of the railroad tracks and that sort of thing. So they do, yeah, and I just think when it comes to that, it's a discussion we had. We recognize what that property is and how attractive that is to young kids when they walk back there. So it's gonna need some attention from us for sure.
And I'm sure the school would work with us if we needed to work on some alternatives, busing if needed.
Yeah, that was part of that
Sure,
discussion
period.
this morning, is like, what does that look like, right, if we get into August, but I think it's just, it's really hard to make determinations on what things are gonna,
Because we're even
You
having
know.
problems with, and I share this with you,
Yeah.
barricades moving
Yeah.
in the downtown area. People simply just moving the barricade. But once those are up, there's a reason why they're up. It's meant for human safety. So
yeah, for sure.
I just wanted to ask about that delay because
Yeah.
it's frustrating.
No, I get it, yeah, as a
I feel
business
like we're
owner, I'd
Chicken
be
Little.
really mad right now.
Telling everybody there's this big project coming in, and we
Nope, I get it. I share in their frustration, maybe not exactly how they feel,
Yeah.
but I understand where they're frustrated, and it will be shared with the contractor on Monday, so,
I keep apologizing to business owners for not.
yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move to G, building permit report, and it is in the packet. H, any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion? Are there any?
Were you working on an e-bike ordinance?
Mhm.
So that's potential future discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
We were to
E-bikes.
do that in public safety, weren't we?
Yeah, it's something that needs to be brought, so I know that we're looking at some different options, some neighboring municipalities, and just kind of looking what fits for us. Yeah, so the answer is yes.
Okay.
Okay. Then we'll move to 11, communication and miscellaneous business. A, Black Otter Lake District News, Dalton.
Dalton's not getting the invites right now, so we're
Oh.
still working on that, but I
Okay.
think
Yeah, I didn't get any
we've
emails.
found a solution around it. So
Okay.
he will be on future communications. I
Okay.
wasn't able to attend, we did meet last week, but for the most part, it was just making sure that we have everything ready for the annual meeting, which is August 27th in this room.
And what time?
5:30 food starts, I think the meeting starts at 6.
It's August 27th.
Yep.
Okay.
I feel like I got the wrong date last time. I thought it was the 22nd. I got the
Alright.
wrong date in my phone.
And that'll be here?
Yep.
Okay. And then B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District News, Jim?
We had a delayed meeting, we met last night, because 2 of the members were out of town, so, we, discussed the budget. I just got the paperwork yesterday, so it wasn't included in the packet. I did bring it if anybody wants to see. Discussed the fire and EMS calls to date. Fire's at 63, that's up from their norm. EMS is at 148, that's around their average. We had a short discussion about the ambulance service stuff in terms of coordinating with Hortonia, whether or not they're gonna do the same thing as that we're doing. And I directed them to talk to Nathan. They were looking for some more information. Other than that, the Hortonville Fire Department softball tournament is this the 24th, 25th weekend coming up. It's a big fundraiser for them. I think they have about 14 teams, and it's a substantial. They run it at a substantial profit, and then the repaving of the driveway came in a little bit under budget, but they still have to deal with the sealing of it yet, so it's probably still going to be it's going to be pretty close. The next meeting is going to be October 14th at 6 p.m.
Okay. We'll move to C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News. There's none. D, Hortonville Civic Association, Jane is out. E, Senior Activities, Therese.
We had a meeting on Monday the 13th. We discussed Autumn Fest. If anybody wants to go to the Trout Museum for free, it's actually free for the first whole year. And they're going to have a seniors activity to go there very soon. I don't exactly know the day, but it's coming up really soon. And there is a very possible initiation of a foot care program for anyone in need. The location will be downtown Hortonville on Mondays. And if it works out, which I think it will, it'll be in the Village Voice.
Okay.
For seniors or anybody else who needs foot care.
Okay. Then we'll move to 12, comments and suggestions from citizens present. Is there anything?
I just want to thank you again for allowing me to speak. I would like to thank specifically Mr. Moeller and Mr. Treadwell for their ability to look at our topic objectively at the last board meeting and trying to offer suggestions and options. Mr. Moeller as well for recognizing the need for consistency, which was a very strong buzzword again tonight on multiple topics. Additionally, I'd like to thank both of those folks as well for their attempts at the last board meeting to keep the focus of discussion to the business itself, not the structure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move to 13. We would need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 7:57.